Bolognese sauce is a pasta sauce that has a lot of tomatoes in it and tastes absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend it. So I'm going to show you my method of making this godly tiered sauce. First things first, there's a link to the recipe in the description or a recipe that I use in this video. It's not mine, nor do I even remotely follow it, but it's a good recipe and it's one that I draw inspiration from. And I deviated from it just a tiny bit as I use most of the ingredients from the recipe, but I do change it a bit. So think of it more like a localized Thai version of the Bolognese recipe because instead of pancetta, I use pork belly. Instead of beef, I use pork. And instead of celery, I use spring onion. I just really love pork. Now, you want to begin by peeling your garlic and onions. Then, you want to begin dicing up your garlic, spring onions, mushroom, and carrots to the point that they are bite-sized pieces, as this will be really good, as they'll pretty much melt in your mouth when you eat it. Really make sure that the onions, especially, are small and cubed up, like what I have right now, like at the moment that I'm cutting it up. And for the garlic, instead of finely chopped, I opted to just crush the things because it's easier, much more convenient, and I'm Thai. Everyone's got a mortar and pestle lying around. Anyways, dice up your bacon into small pieces and prep the minced pork. Slice up the pork belly and get rid of the excess fat in the pork belly to be used as oil in the pot. Last time I made bolognese, all I tasted was tomato, which is, I guess, okay, but I also want to taste the pork. And by using pork belly fat, it really incorporates the flavor without being too overwhelming. Now, at this point, you want to toss the pork belly fat into the pot and let it simmer until there's a decent amount of oil at the bottom of the pan. Once that's there, get rid of the burnt pieces of fat in the pot, like the towel that you use, and toss in your bacon, pork, and the remaining pork belly, all of the meat proteins essentially. Don't forget to salt and pepper it, as you want it to actually be seasoned. Once it begins to brown, toss in the vegetables and let the flavors really, really get to know each other for about a good 10 to 15 minutes while continuing to stir. It's very important to stir as you might burn it, so just keep stirring. Now, one important factor to note is that the sauce will require a lot of salt, and usually I leave the seasoning until the final part because it's safer that way, and you can adjust it easier once everything's done. Now, once that time is up, you want to kind of deglaze the pot by adding in some red wine, and then proceed to add the peeled tomatoes into the pot. Definitely put salt and pepper into the sauce. Also, make sure to keep tasting to see whether or not it meets your standards and cut off the heat once all the water has melted, like all the liquid has melted, and it looks like a real ragu sauce. It should be like very velvety red, very red. And in this video, you can kind of see it looks like a real sauce. You can see as I'm holding up the pot, and there's just barely any liquid, which is great as ragu. Now, I've got some leftover dough from last time, and I'm gonna just roll it out real quick and begin to make the pasta. I don't need to show the footage for that much. I'll just show me, actually cutting it. And you just boil the pasta and just throw it into the pot and mix it. No need to be really hard. You could also put some cheese on top, which is really nice. And although it doesn't look pretty, it tastes absolutely amazing.